Hi everyone, welcome to our session about AI ethics. Today we're going to discuss about this amazingly interesting topic, which is absolutely pivotal to create accountable and sustainable innovations of AI and other leading edge technologies today. I'm Sherin Matthew. I'm the CEO and founder of Innovation Exchange and AI Tech North, one of the largest community in the north of UK. I'm also Chief AI Strategist, and I'm absolutely passionate about AI technology and how can we create something beneficial for mankind and for our planet. So let's try to analyze where ethics is really needed. So let's try to assess what we do today. So let's think, how are we actually living today? We know we have created our own habits of just accepting technology as it is. I call this techno acceptance, where we just agree with any policies of any social media app or mobile app and we just directly install and use it. We accept the algorithms that's running behind every website and every other applications out there, which is probably dictating the price of your holidays. It's probably dictating what you should watch next. It's probably dictating what you should buy next. And it's actually fluctuating the market. Stock market, 70 to 80% of the algorithms are controlling the market in this case. And we're also allowing brands to do whatever they like. We are allowing upgrades. The amount of times you have, bought new phone in a span of a year or two, the amount of time you have just thrown away the appliances that was fully functional, a month ago. We are seeing a trend of just accepting the technology, innovation, and everything else around us. And we are probably not hesitant to say we are not a robot. But in that big click, there is a big, deep insights that we are absolutely not realizing. That we are letting robots and this technology and innovation slowly take over our skills and eventually our jobs. So, to give you some context, let's go back in history. We all know the impact that Industrial Revolution had. So let's try to use that as an example. Industrial Revolution had profound impact on our society. And one of the most and major impact of the Industrial Revolution was it harnessed the power of manual labor. Machines took over what humans did. And when this happened, there was an influx of population, there was child labor issues, people were working insanely long hours, health and safety was not there, and pregnant women, they were working in factories, kids were working close to fire and furnaces and dangerous machines. Today, we have technologies and regulations and rights and labor protection and factory acts in place. This was all impact of Industrial Revolution. It impacted the economy and society in a good and also in a negative manner. At the same time, we're also seeing intellectual and intelligence revolution happening today. We're seeing the power of intelligence being slowly harnessed. And it is harnessed thanks to digital transformation and innovation. Now, the problem with digital transformation is once you create a copy of a logic, you can easily copy paste that. And the biggest problem with that is once you created a digital copy, there's no way we can take it back. Our intelligence is lost, it's domesticated, and is to a certain extent colonized. And it kind of repeats the same issues that we saw or witnessed during Industrial Revolution time. So think about it. We had Industrial Revolution and we created arrays of rights, acts, policies, and laws. At this minute, AI technology is highly unregulated. There are various guidelines, but there are no strict, unanimous, and universal right to protect our intelligence. So let's deep dive into this a bit more. So what's happening today is we are harnessing intelligence. And we've seen various waves of revolution. And let's start with the industrial revolution, where the power of labor was harnessed. Then we saw a revolution where we were using a lot of computers. Every house had a computer by beginning of the century. And we saw power of processing. Everyone was able to use software, process more data, and compute more using applications and programs. So we saw power of processing being harnessed in this era. Then came this rapid information era, where information technology and internet and access to various online resources and cloud technology made information accessible across the world at a very rapid high speed. And that has led to something very interesting and inevitable. And thanks to abundance of data and information, we have now intelligence revolution. A revolution where we're able to harness the power of intelligence and insights with which we can create some amazingly predictive capabilities and take informed decisions that can bring more benefit for your business, for health sectors, and various other use cases. It truly is used in various disciplines and sectors to empower engagement, to optimize operation, to transform systems, and ultimately optimize everything that we do today. But behind the scene, we got to remember there is serious impact of all this technology. Now, the most profound one is we will witness 40% of the jobs lost to introduction of AI and automation technology over the next decade. With this technology, we will also see there's about 15 trillion contribution to our global economy. Now, we also got to analyze that how they two work together, or how do they sort of complement each other. Jobs are being lost on one hand, and there's 15 trillion contribution to our economy, which means ethics and having moral code for implementation of these high-tech new innovation is the need of the hour. We also need to ask ourselves, what happens to the students who are working and studying today? It's forecasted that 70% of the students will be working on a completely new technology, and pretty much they're working or studying on a completely outdated system or syllabus in this case. We've taken a recent survey where we heard about 66% of the people believed that governance is the need of the hour today, and there's a fear that robotics and AI can potentially take the jobs. 70% of the organization are missing AI leadership and strategy. 80% of the technology leaders believe that AI really needs to be regulated. But how? So let's focus into the how. Now, the most important part of the how is really understanding where could it be impacting us and how it will be impacting us. What are we going to lose in this whole process of going without regulation or without ethics? The most important thing that we will lose is our identity. Now, to give you an example, we're already seeing trend of driverless cars, which you all are aware of, autonomous drivings and autonomous vehicle. But at the same time, we're not far off from technologies such as managerless management with AI and machine learning technologies embedded into our day-to-day life. We're not far off from seeing augmented reality, holographic 3D teachers or people trying to give us lessons and tutorials. Teacherless teaching is a possibility to repeat the same topics and course over and over again and digitally across the world. We're already seeing robotics helping in manufacturing and construction and various other spaces. So we might see builderless building as a trend. So without realizing, we are creating an economy which is completely autonomous. So what do we need today? We really need an awareness of what are the impacts of not having ethics in place. We really need to have an understanding how ethics could be applied. How can we be accountable? How can we operationalize ethics is really essential at this stage. And once we know all of this, we really need to empower everyone in a democratic fashion. Ethics, lack of ethics has profound impact. So ethics becomes really an interesting and a hot topic of this decade. Now, a good example in this case is, think about cars. We all drive cars, and we all know the power of the vehicle, the value that this particular vehicle can give us. But just like driving car, if we don't have things such as driving license, speed limits, warning signs, alerts on our dashboard, all these things really help us to drive in a safe and, professional and ethical manner. So imagine how far we can go without having regulations. And ethics and AI and all these technology are really going to drive the future generation for us. Now, the big role that ethics plays is it brings accountability in the design and innovation process. So to give you an idea, accountability is matrix of various things that we need to think. So accountability means thinking about what is the impact on our ecosystem? How does it impact the unemployment? How does it impact the risk of personal and human rights? How does it impact fairness, bias, and ethics? Also plays a key role in terms of how we live today in our society. So to bring all of this together, it's a challenging task, and many regulators and governing body are currently facing this challenge. And it all boils down to, how can we regulate this particular technology? Because of the various moving parts, what we have decided to do is let's simplify all these regulations and framework and come up with something really simple, foundational principle that sort of governs and micromanages or gives you objectives to work with every regulation out there. So we proposed, let's take an approach of democratically coming together and providing an ethics framework by the people, for the people. So we come up with this concept of public intelligence. Public intelligence is a democratic movement where we are coming together to create accountable and sustainable innovation and also protect our human rights to intelligence. So it's basically relying on 5 principles. And the first and foremost and the foundational principle of public intelligence is right to human intelligence. Right to intelligence is protecting human experience, intelligence, interaction, our learning, our skills, everything that we have done from our childhood. And all of this helps us to be who we are today. Our intelligence is what makes us valued. And our intelligence is what gives us that job. No one else can do what a doctor or a lawyer or a driver could do. So we are designed in a way that we have this personal intelligence curated over years, and that is our fundamental rights. So when technologies like AI are launched or released into the public domain and all these applications and technology which is created, if they're not honoring our right to intelligence, we have a problem. So it really is respecting people and people's intelligence to start with. The next principle is called purpose-driven. So really understanding what is the purpose of this technology. Do we really need to have AI to do a certain task? Is it there to augment or is it there to automate? And when you ask these sort of questions and challenge the status quo or the approach of innovation, you realize probably you don't need AI. It has more downstream side effects and consequences and repercussions. Really thinking this well in advance of what is the true purpose and how it adds value to the ecosystem. Because there are multiple stakeholders when you launch a simple application. Just like, a good example is if someone said, I want to create a robotic surgeon, the impact of creating a robotic surgeon is profound. The impact is quite deep. The scale is quite huge. And think about the medical schools that will be impacted by this disruption. Think about all the doctors who are waiting to become surgeons. Think about the textbook. Think about the professors. and all the governing bodies and educational institute around creating a professional surgeon. So really got to think about the purpose and also manage the disruption. So leading to this is the next point, which is, and the next principle called disruption prevention. Disruption prevention ensures that we are taking a well thought, assessment of how a particular innovation or AI application enters into a particular ecosystem. What I mean by that is you've got to think the speed, the scale, the depth, the impact on sustainability, impact on the system, impact on the skills of certain people who are already working on a certain technology. How are you going to manage all of this? How are you going to manage the displacement of a particular technology or people's skill in this case? If you are creating a new innovation where you are going to upskill someone, fair enough. If you're going to create a new technology, are we ensuring that there are jobs impacted by that displacement? If you're creating a new way of working with an optimized AI process, what happens to the existing ecosystem around that process? If you're creating a new product, for example, a completely new phone or a car, what happens to the existing hardware and the waste that it generates by creating a complete new handset or a new car? So it's really ensuring that disruption is well managed within the ecosystem. And that is absolutely pivotal to have a successful launch of any AI application in an ethical manner. The next principle number 4, is risk evaluation. We know when we do anything out there in this real world, organize an event or build a house or create a factory, we do a full thorough risk assessment. Why don't we do this when we create an AI application which is going out there, talking, augmenting, and engaging with people in the absence of human? We really got to have some risk evaluation process in place. So principle number 4 is factoring all the possible risk that is possible from an AI perspective, which is impact on human rights, impact on social well-being, the political impact, the impact on personal rights, fairness, bias, algorithms we've seen out there which was making some biased decisions and being used in an unethical fashion. So we really got to be thinking long and hard of how do we assess the risk of any unwarranted impact that AI could have to our society and to our planet as well. Last but not least, final principle is called accountable redesign. The key word here is redesign, because it's easy to be accountable when you are starting from scratch. A greenfield project or a brand new project, you can put these principles in place. So what happens to the applications which are already out there and not ethical? This becomes public, right to really challenge them and say, can we be accountable by redesigning this? Every software, we know it, every software out there, when we develop, it has series of iterations. It has version 1, version 2, and loads of updates and upgrades. This gives us the right opportunity to redesign in an accountable fashion. And this becomes that point where all the principles and ethics and accountability, the responsibility, fairness, transparency, and being ethical could be embedded in the redesign process, not just in the design, in the redesign process. And when we do all of this, what happens is we are kind of ensuring the overarching framework which supports the global regulations. It aligns to the recently launched guidelines from EU. It also aligns to the Sustainability Development Goals of United Nations. So by honoring this just top 5 level principles, we're making ethics simple for you. So I think the message over here is pretty clear. We have to really be aware of what's coming in terms of AI technology and how can we embed ethics in our day-to-day process of ethical innovation, not just in AI, any innovation. So we need to stop sleepwalking, and it's time to wake up and realize that regulation can be applied in a very simple and a proactive fashion. And if you need to hear more about what we're doing, please follow our website, which is publicintelligence.ai. We are also going to launch a documentary, and there will be a white paper coming soon. So please sign up to watch the film and enjoy. If anyone has any question, please contact us over here. So public intelligence detail for any assessment or support is right there, which is publicintelligence.ai. And if anyone wants any advice from an ethical perspective, how to implement a sustainable and beneficial AI solution, please contact us on aivantage.ai. Thank you.